What they do instead is they have a normal.
Okay, we have audio. Thanks guys for coming to the data engineering meetup. I'm so glad you could make it today. As you can see, I am a very high maintenance Twitch streamer and I carry my setup with me everywhere I go. I did stream on Twitch today, believe it or not. It's like installed Kubernetes on some mini computers. Like that was my Twitch stream. Welcome to the Utah Data Engineering Meetup. We're so glad you came. We want to thank Vivint for giving us a venue and food. I know Jordan's found a clap for Vivint anyway. They got us pizza. For announcements, we don't have too many. We will have a data engineering meetup next month. It'll be at Recursion. Jake Anderson speaking. He's getting me the topic soon. The MLOps meetup is next week at Weave on Tuesday. They're talking about LLM ops. I don't know what the difference is, but I'll go learn because they're different. I just know that ops means install things on Kubernetes, which you can do on Twitch streams. If this is your first time at the meetup, welcome. This meetup is sponsored by Forge Utah. Forge Utah is a nonprofit. We host a bunch of meetups. Literally, I have one every week that I go to. We have a great Slack community. You just go to our website, forgeutah.tech. There's a button right in the middle. You click it, you press join Slack. And then you can hang out and chat with us about AI or data engineering or Kubernetes or there's actually really been some really good threads in the engineering leadership channel recently. We talked about why technical interviews are stupid. So, you know, there's that. Like they can't measure somebody's technical evaluation by a take-home quiz. That was actually what we decided was. So yeah. We want to thank our speaker, John. John volunteered to speak a few months ago. He came, he's going to have a great talk for us to hear about data quality. So we'll turn the time over to you, John, and let's give him a round of applause. Turn your mic back on.
Okay. Great. Thanks for having me. So a little bit of background on me. I've been
Turn the room down.
I've been at testing.
Nope.
Oh. Should we go without? Okay.
Did this last time too. I really like mics, but they just never quite.
Right. Is that? Yep. Okay. So I've been at Intermountain Health specifically at SelectHealth, the payer side, insurance side of Intermountain Health for 8 years. Prior to that, I was up in Logan, Utah at Utah State University for 20 years, and then in Silicon Valley at Oracle, Sun Microsystems, a couple of startups. Got sick of the housing prices there, so came out here so that I could get sick of housing prices out here. Okay, so want to talk about some of our planning steps for achieving data quality, the when, where, and what of what we wanted to accomplish with our data quality. Oftentimes, data quality starts out as a directive from the executive saying, we just want better data quality. And they don't give any specifics on what are the problems that we've had with data quality, what are the what's the value to the organization, what are the things that we should be trying to prevent. So a lot of times you end up having to come up with that for yourself. So I want to get some ideas on where people are with their data quality initiatives. So we'll kind of start out with the junior folk of who hasn't worked with data quality, that they might be a student that's looking for an internship, the opportunity to get into the analytics. So any junior folk? Okay, how many people have been working with analytics? We'll do for less than 2 years, less than 5 years, less than 10, and more than 10. So less than 2 years, okay? Less than 5 years,
Well, I'll go there.
okay? Less than 10 years, okay, and more than 10 years. All right, good, good. That gives me an idea of the audience to speak with. So data quality can be very much like landscaping or weeding a garden. Oftentimes you start out with the idea of, I moved from an apartment, now I own a home, so I'm going to be responsible for mowing and weeding. I think I can handle that. Well, as you start getting into it, you realize there's a lot more to it, of pest control, landscaping, putting in structures. Do you need to do aeration? What type of fertilizing do you need to do? That it can be a very complex layer, and you have to determine, do I want a palatial garden? Do I want a very minimalistic environment where I can go out and enjoy other things? But when you start looking at landscaping or data quality, there's a lot of planning that you need to do if you're starting out from scratch or you're coming into someone else's landscape environment, that to build out what it is that you want. And then on an annual basis, you need to schedule out, how often do we mow, do we fertilize, what time of year should we be doing each of these different operations, and very much the same with data quality. But the different aspects of data quality can vary quite significantly. The what that you would be accomplishing with data quality is really described as the principles or dimensions of data quality. And a lot of times people will initially think of one particular aspect of, there's a tool out there that does a fantastic job with being able to look at your data and say, give me a data profile, and do I have any erroneous data? SelectHealth operates out of 4 states. If we're seeing 5 states in our insurance plans, then we know something's up. If we're only seeing 2 of the 4 states, we know something's up. Some great tools for that, but there's also a lot of things to consider, like governance, security, engaging with the business to provide them with the data that they need to be able to make their decisions. And then, in addition to what you're monitoring, there's also considerations of when you're going to be monitoring that. Is it in the planning stages? Is it in the building the data, building out your data tables? Is it updating your data tables on a daily basis? All of these are points where the data quality could fail. And then within SelectHealth Intermountain, we've got thousands of data tables that we're constantly working on. So we have to prioritize, what is it that we're going to really, what are the critical tables that we need to ensure our highest quality on an hourly basis? What are the non-critical reference tables that are just updated once a year? And there's really low risk and low impact if there's a data quality issue. So it really becomes, when you look at data quality, you can't do everything to try and improve data quality. You don't want to try and do everything. There's never a budget to do everything. So it's being able to identify what the targets are that are providing value to the organization and are really building the reputation for the analytics team. If you've got poor data quality, your reputation goes down. It becomes much more difficult to get people to be data literate and use data to help inform their decision making. So the agenda, I'm going to go over is reviewing some of the complexity of data quality, the what, when, and where that I provided a quick preview on, the principles of data quality, the quality levels for different data tables, aligning that with the business goals, and then aspirational QA, where to move forward, and want to talk with you as a group on what some of the open source solutions are that you particularly like. I want to try and stay vendor neutral. There's a lot of different tools with different vendors, so we'll tend to stick to more vendor neutral discussions and open source solutions available to lots of people. So why are we talking about this? To understand data quality, be able to put together a data quality plan that the executives can get behind and provide resources for you, align with your business goals, providing value and reducing the impact and risk to the organization. How to deploy a data quality solution, which sounds like a lot of you have already started your deployment efforts with analytics, and then continuous improvement, how to refine your solution and define what you want to do at different goals. So our environment is a lot like many organizations. The data is particularly complex due to having a lot of departmental silos that different departments, like human resources, don't want to share their information because there's salary information, but you also want to get all of the employee information for a lot of reports, just to be able to send out internal alerts to people. You want to know who the employees are. So there's balances of what information they're willing to share, and there's a lot of human-centered business processes that may or may not be directly related to data entry, but they oftentimes make it much more complex to interact with the human side of things. It's not as much ones and zeros. There's lots of gray areas. And then we oftentimes have multiple solutions, multiple tools for ETL, for pulling data from different sources, different relational or NoSQL databases that we may be pulling from, as well as pulling from and pushing data to various other partners, other organizations throughout the cloud. So when we launched our initiative, we focused on 18 of the data quality principles. DAMA, the data management organization, they've got a list of 65 different dimensions or principles to be concerned with in data quality. We reviewed those and identified these are the 18 that we're concerned with, that we're going to evaluate on. And we identified 12 different phases for when you would be, in addition to what you're doing for data quality, when you would be implementing data quality, whether it's in the planning stages, data entry stages, ETL, etc. And then mentioned that we had thousands of different tables. We can't have the same data quality level across all 1,000 tables, and we have different needs with those 1,000 tables. So after our initial assessment across all of these categories, we came up with 142 considerations for data quality. That has since grown quite significantly, but the fortunate thing is that we're working with 7 particular principles that we're planning to deliver on each year. We draw a line in the sand to say we're not working on a data quality initiative that is not more important than this particular line item. Anything else goes into the backlog, which makes it a lot easier to react to things as they come along. So the impact to poor data quality, the one aspect that I see a lot of organizations missing out on is the potential value to the organization. So it's expanding to, we're often focused on what's the data that we have in place, and maybe we should be focusing on what the additional data is that we should be collecting. So can we expand out with other partner information? We have acquired a number of organizations. We've partnered with a number of organizations. Having effective data sharing between the groups to be able to really understand the financial positions of those partners is really powerful. If you can engage with the business there, that becomes an area where your data quality is not just preventing loss, it's adding value to the organization. And the organization saying, how can we assist with getting more data so that we can make the right decisions? As well as potential future, in addition to organizational partners, maybe you're looking at expanding customers. So instead of looking at the customers you have, take a look at the information related to customers you don't have, pulling in census information that's freely available or commercial information that you can collect for specific markets. A lot of the things that you are familiar with, certainly trust is an impact to the organization within analytics. If they don't trust the data and the numbers that you're crunching, they're not going to use it for decision making. But those decisions and bad data could result in losses to the organization, either in terms of losing customers, hurting reputation, hurting brand reputation, or people simply needing to call into the call center to resolve their issues rather than providing all of the information they need through online tools. So the various principles of data quality, we group them into a number of different areas. I'm going to make it difficult to track me here. All right. Okay, the different principles, we group them into 4 areas. The governance or planning stages, where we're focused on not direct SQL queries to resolve our data quality, but more people interaction. So security, identifying who should be provided access to the table, making sure we're talking to compliance and legal, not providing confidential information in places that we shouldn't, particularly with partner data. We don't want to share information that's inappropriate to be sharing. And things like accessibility, making sure people have the metadata that they need to find the particular tables and columns that they need to make their decisions. Next is the departmental interactions, working with the business SMEs to say they need reports, they need tools, what data is available to start sharing that information, ensuring that the business calculations are being performed correctly, the data that we have is accurate and it's relevant to the reports that they need. If we're generating a report that they can't use for making their decisions, we're providing the wrong reports and wrong data. The data engineering for getting together, building out the data marts that can be self-service tools, and then the calculated measures, making sure that the ETL is updating everything that we've got. Completeness, both in regards to ensuring that we have all of the data. If we have 1 million members, we're expecting our enrollment tables to have 1 million members consistently. Completeness is also referring to, do we have all of the information that we need for the people? Do we have the census information for people who are not yet our customers, so that we can help grow the organization with additional organizations? Or maybe we're selling a policy to a large employer. We're identifying what the large employers are that we haven't partnered with yet. In regard to the principles of data quality, each of the various vendors that we've worked with, oftentimes we'll pick 6 or 7 of the principles that they're talking about, and we're kind of wondering, okay, we had 18, DAMA had 65 different areas. Are the 6 areas that that a tool is promoting, why don't they have a larger group of tools? And oftentimes it's because their tool was designed to meet a particular need. So the tool might be a tool that's designed to help you with governance capabilities. It might be a tool that's going to help you with lineage or security, and they're going to emphasize the principles of data quality that they're able to deliver on, but might not be the solutions that you want for your organization. So take a look at all of the different principles, select the ones that you want to focus on for the organization, and then look at the tools that help deliver those solutions. The slide deck is available for download from Forge, Utah. And in the data engineering suite, there's also URL links, bit.ly /UDEM 0416. You can grab these. There's a full list of the definitions for the various principles and the 65 DAMA principles and links to their descriptions. So in addition to the principles of what it is that you're working on, you want to focus on two areas of when and where you're going to be applying those data quality principles. So at the design phase, the building phase, or the monitoring phase, before you have put data into the tables, you're planning various governance activities, doing the needs assessment with the business to make sure they have the data that they need. The building the phase is going to be building out your data mart, ensuring that the tables that you're building have the information that's needed. The ETL process is going to be updating the information. Do you need it? Is a truncate and replace process on a daily basis, on a yearly basis? Is it incremental updates, or is it near real-time updates? So designing data quality for those various solutions. And then once your data mart has been built, is it updating regularly? And then once the information has been updated, being able to monitor it both on a daily basis to make sure your ETLs succeeded as you were expecting, and historic trending to be able to identify our enrollment is continuously growing. Is it growing at an expected amount, or did we suddenly see a 20% growth overnight that we weren't expecting? Probably an indication that we're having a join operation that's gone awry. So being able to anticipate those individual trends, as well as being able to report that to the organization, that if we did have a 20% jump overnight, to let the organization know what's happening there. And then where it happens, we've been big on the medallion architecture, typically bronze, silver, gold environment, where bronze layer is your raw data, silver is the data's been transformed after you've copied it from the source, gold is optimized for reporting, and then we throw in a platinum level for being able to optimize it a little bit further for unique report needs. And at each of these sources, you have the opportunity to engage with data quality as well as a need. Most importantly, the data entry is oftentimes a really complicated area. If people are entering the data incorrectly, it's going to be passed through all of these stages till it gets to the report level, where it can be, someone can actually see it and notify us that there's a problem. So being able to look at the data entry, sometimes it's a very simple operation of, instead of having state as a free-form field, you have it as a drop-down. You have the calendar dates for date of birth, and you have some basic rules saying no one should be more than 300 years old and no one should be born 5 years into the future. So there's a lot of just kind of sanity checks that can happen at this stage. The extract, transform, and the extract and load particularly, if you're having network issues, oftentimes you end up with truncated or zero size tables. Might be other reasons that you end up with zero records in a table, but that also ends up going downstream and affecting all of your reports. The And then getting into the other various stages here, the queries that you're running, sometimes the business changes the rules of, instead of storing the states as UT and AZ and ID for Idaho, they decided we're going to change the naming so that ID is not mistaken for identification. ID is Idaho, so we're going to write out Idaho. And then suddenly with that change, all of your reports are suddenly failing. Being able to identify things like that early in the process, and particularly to identify them at a state that you're not going to have the downstream fallout. So there's a lot of areas where the biggest challenge a lot of organizations had with data quality is there are thousands of areas we could have a problem with data quality. How do we address all of those? And we don't want to get slammed because someone's last name was misspelled, and that made the topic for the executive teams. We want to try and prioritize what it is that we're going to be working on. And we found a couple of principles that helped us guiding, particularly with the strategic endeavors to identify not only what we're going to work on, but what we're not going to work on has been the best time saver for us to be able to say, we're adding that to the backlog, we're going to prioritize that, but these are the things that we're working on. We're working on providing business value and opportunities, growing our organization and partnerships. We're going to identify past historic issues that had significant impact to the organization, and we're going to try and stop those from happening again. We're seeing about 25% of the issues that have happened in the past end up happening again, and oftentimes they happen within 3 days of the initial issue. And then building out a framework so that we can respond very quickly, rather than building ad hoc solutions to identify a particular problem, identify the trends of the problems, what are the principles of the areas, and what are the places where the different failures are occurring, and putting in frameworks so that we can rapidly identify. We're looking at validating these states. We also want to validate that we have these 7 lines of business, such as large employer, Medicaid, Medicare, that all of those 7 lines of business should consistently be appearing. And whenever we build out a tool, we're looking at not solving that particular problem, but solving similar problems. So when we initially evaluated, we looked at the different 18 principles or dimensions of data quality and the various times when those data quality issues could occur. Tried to prioritize those, identify what the concerns were for the organization. And you can see there's a lot of areas that they just didn't have overlap. And then there's some clusters at the implementation stage and the planning stages. We use this to be able to identify, we've got 142 different issues. We identified what's the most important principles, where are we having the biggest problems, and where should we implement it. That got us narrowed down to 7 different targets that we wanted to focus on. And the rest of the concerns we backlogged for another day. We thought that we had a large enough team we could address 7 issues in a particular year, and we developed that line in the sand. We said anything that is more important than this issue, we're going to add to our list, and we're going to drop something from the list. Anything less important than that, it goes into the backlog, and we review that again the following year. So the various planning stages, the aspect that we repetitively go through are considering our various risks, looking at this type of chart, organizing the various issues that we had, taking those 142 issues, putting them into principles, and Whenever a new issue comes up, we identify what principle it fell under, when that error in the ETL pipeline, the error occurred, and what the impact was to the organization. That enabled us to start responding to the things that were most important to the organization and tabling things that this just doesn't matter to the organization at this time. And of course, there's always exceptions to that. Aligning the needs with the business, so identifying what value we can provide to the organization, what is the impact to the organization if any of these points fail, and making sure that we've got the backing and the support of the executives on these decisions. And then we really got down to, this is one we failed on initially, is we weren't tracking the issues. We didn't have a good solid record several years back saying these were all of the issues that we had. We had kind of this anecdotal store, and we found that if we were able to track the issues, we could identify those patterns much more effectively. And particularly reporting on those issues, being transparent to the organization, where we can discuss the value we've delivered to the organization and the differences. I didn't say improvements because sometimes everything that's different wasn't an improvement. That sometimes we had a partner and we slowed down our ETL process. We weren't able to deliver things in 4 hours. It was taking us 12 hours to deliver things because of that partnership. So bringing those issues to the surface, as well as highlighting how we've improved things to the organization. This is getting back to what I mentioned before. You really can't solve all of the data quality issues. So track as much as you can, but then prioritize things. You can't anticipate and prevent every possible combination of data loss. What you can do is when data loss or data quality issues arise, respond rapidly to the organization, acknowledge the issue, communicate the issue, report the resolution to the organization, and identify the impact so that the whole organization, from the departments that are affected to the executive team, are aware of what's happening. So the more important than responding rapidly is really preventing the impact, identify what are the potential risks to the organization, what are our day-to-day operations, our bread and butter, that if we have data quality issues there, we need to address them and we need to prevent those. So preventing that critical impact requires a lot of engaging with the different departments, the executive leaders, and then the most important aspect is adding value to the organization. If we can grow the organization by providing the right data, that provides the opportunity for funding for further analytics team developments and data quality. So what we looked at from some of the historical known issues, these were some of the biggest issues that we had going forward. How are we on time? Okay. So what were the different principles that were affecting us historically, and what was the impact to the organization? So we had some issues with completeness and accuracy, and they oftentimes led to discussions going up to the executive level, getting a lot of scrutiny there and scrambling to fix the problems. But when we looked at the impact to the organization, oftentimes the impact to the organization was on the order of $50 for a lot of the completeness and accuracy, that the overall impact was not significant. It affected a customer, and we put in steps to improve that situation for all customers. But there were a lot of other issues that were costing the organization thousands of dollars that were blocking our operational day-to-day activities. The accessibility was a big hindrance in regard to people being able to find the data that they need to make the reporting decisions. And one of the issues that got the biggest attention was consistency. What we saw is a lot of the executives pointed out different reports where the numbers didn't match up, that the number of members that we had in Idaho was not significant from one report to another. And we found when we researched into that, it wasn't a data quality issue, it was a problem with our terms and definitions. We were calling it members instead of saying active members, or maybe it's subscribers that were in the count, and we were labeling it as members. A subscriber is if I might be a subscriber and my wife and kids are members on my plan. On my wife's plan, she's the subscriber for her plan and I'm a member of her plan. So there can be confusion on some basic terminology there, and oftentimes it's things like members over the age of 18. We think all of our members are over the age of 18, but we actually have a number of kids that have individual plans. I won't get into some of the details of healthcare there. Completeness is oftentimes an issue, and it's something that we can identify quickly. And there's lots of tools out there for that. Timeliness and ensuring that the data that we have is being updated at the rate that people are expecting. That oftentimes is, do you want hourly updates, daily updates, monthly updates? What works best for the individual reports? But when we looked at the historical views, we were missing a couple of things that were really important that we hadn't historically had a problem with. Now, security is a major concern, and we're very concerned with that. We haven't had a problem with that that I'm aware of. But that's something that we should definitely be paying attention to and making sure we're not overly sharing information that we shouldn't, as well as adding value to the organization. That's not a historical impact, it's a historical value add that I think we could do better with. And then determining the data quality that you want. It's kind of like picking the landscaping that you want, that you don't want. Many people don't want their front lawn to be a dirt pile with dandelions that are spreading into the neighbors' lawns, but they also don't want to maintain a fancy fountain with koi fish that die off on a regular basis or are hunted by various pests and migratory birds. The data quality that we want is unique to each organization. Some organizations and some data tables need to be very high quality. Others, is it going to be affecting someone's life? Is it going to be affecting someone's finances? Is it going to be affecting an inconvenience level? This can all determine the data quality to react to within the organization. So a lot of the discussions that we've had before are, do we want to be reactive or proactive? Reactive typically costs a lot of money. If we're not losing a lot of money, we probably don't want to invest heavily in proactive solutions that will spend a lot of money on to save us very little money. Framework versus ad hoc. Do we solve individual problems, or do we build solutions that can scale out for engaging with partners? And when we partner with an organization, are we going to look at the other organization and say they've got a lot better job of their data quality, we're going to be migrating to their platform? Or do we want to build a platform where we can demonstrate that our data quality is much higher quality and have other people look at our what we've done and adopting it within their organization? If you've got an IS department that has a QA group, we found it was really beneficial to partner with them, that they've had a lot of various aspects to rolling out code QA work, engaging with the various IS departments that are doing QA for the code. Oftentimes that was very helpful for designing quality assurance for our data. It's different, but there's definitely a lot of similarity. The appendix in the slide deck has some of those similarities. And then when we looked at the individual tables, trying to identify what tables were most critical, the considerations we had there were what the breadth of the audience was. Was it executives that were using this data? Was it an individual department, the whole organization, or was it one particular person that used it? And then what's the impact of that bad data? Is it someone's bad street address or an old mailing address, and it's going to avoid sending them a little reminder, or is it going to be sending their reminder for their annual wellness visit to the wrong address, not getting people the information that they need? And then what is the likelihood that the bad data is going to pass through without being noticed? We get a hospital census each day saying these are our members that are in the hospital. Check up on them, see what they need. That information, if it's not accurate, someone gets a list of people that are in the hospital and they're calling them within an hour of starting their day, and they find out very quickly whether that census is accurate or not. If with the financial information, if the numbers are incorrect there, they might be reported on a quarterly basis, and the numbers could pursue through. We're making financial decisions based upon inaccurate or incomplete information, and it might not be recognized for a quarter if we've got bad data there. So we really want to watch for the data quality there, ensuring that we don't have bad data, financial data quality, if it's not going to be identified quickly. Whereas the census information, we don't have to build as much into that because we know we're going to be getting a call, and it's a really urgent call to fix the problem. So we really focus on being able to fix that problem rather than identify the problem. And then lastly, how much resources available? The organization operates on financial statements that fortunately SelectHealth, Intermountain Healthcare are a nonprofit organization. We get to focus on people's health first, but we also need to make sure that we can run the operation, run the organization. That means making important decisions like not overstaffing our data quality teams. We want to appropriately staff the data quality teams, and we want to present the executives with the information they need to staff the data quality teams appropriately. So starting to wrap up here, what we found really helpful with the various thousands of tables that we had is what level of data quality we want for each individual table. And we started reporting on the different tables. We started having 1 and 2 diamond quality tables rolling out, and it took us some time before we could start offering 5 diamond services for the tables. So a 1 diamond table, that was identified as a rush table. This is something we need to get the data out there as quick as possible. We're going to minimize the data quality we need there and get the data to the users as quick as possible. 2 diamonds is our typical tables. That makes up more than 80% of the tables that we have. That it's not crucial information, it's not updated particularly regularly. People need to know what data is there, and how to get to the information is the most important part at that level. At 3 diamond levels, we're starting to monitor the tables. We're looking for the updates and the record counts, and we've got service level agreements with partners. So at the 2 diamond level, an alert that goes out goes to the analytics team. At 3 diamonds, it goes out to an alert of a problem goes out to the individual stakeholders that want to be informed, that are saying we need to monitor this data. Our important data, that kind of falls in between critical and monitored. We're monitoring the access control to that regularly. We're storing historical data profiles to do the trending information. But then the 5 diamond level, that's where we're really looking at comprehensive data governance. And we look at the individual column values, those plan states, the lines of business, and we're ensuring that those numbers are within expected ranges. So that allows us to do higher quality data quality on the most critical tables. And then we report to the organization saying, we believe we've got 100 critical tables. We've converted 2 of those tables to meet the 5 diamond standards. And that's how we got the funding to be able to identify these are the data quality steps we want to put into place. And it was a very easy report for the executives to see, to say, we've got all of our tables covered under these levels. We're being asked to provide these levels of service. This is where we've gotten to so far. And it's a very easy metric and dashboard for the organization to look at without the complexity of the when and where of data. So getting into some of the nuances, I'll let you take a look at this slide deck on this slide on your own. Generally, it's saying depending on your different data needs, you're going to have different data quality issues. So data science, if you're building large language models, you're going to have different quality data that is oftentimes telephone data for filling in chatbot data, and you want to make sure that that information's correct. That's going to be a different level of subject matter expert that's coming in and saying this information that someone told someone over the telephone is correct information, and we're interpreting the person's questions and providing them the correct answer. The predictive analytics, if you've got the numbers wrong for your training data, that's going to muck up your ability to predict accurately. If you have if you're doing truncate and replace for your tables versus incremental, you're going to have different data quality issues related to those areas. And then the data audience, are you building out a solution for a self-service data mart, operational departmental data tables, or are you focused on a particular table for a very specific report that might not need to apply all of your standards? I think we've got 3 slides left. Yeah. So deployment plan. This is based on, we did a lot of reading and research. A lot of this is based on feedback from Dama and Gardner. Ramesh Dantha, the founder of Digital Transformation Pro, also wrote a couple of really great articles. The first things to focus on, kind of reiterating, align with your business goals, that the impact and the value to the organization, align with that first, that business matters more than the individual data cells. And then when you're building out your plan, assess the current state, identify the critical tables. What are the tables that people are willing to fund additional services, that 5 diamond level service? Ensure people have skin in the game when they're making these decisions. So if we said rate your tables from 1 to 5, everyone said all of our tables are 5. It's just, when do you need it? I need it yesterday. If they've got skin in the game and they're contributing to the finances or other aspects of the skin in the game, then they start making more educated decisions. After you've got the tables identified, do some data profiling, really looking at the quality of the data. Oftentimes when we got into looking at the data profiling, we were seeing dollar figures in with street addresses that people were just entering. They were doing their data entry, they were hitting tab, and they were blindly entering the information. So oftentimes you just end up with odd data in odd places. Do a gap analysis from assessing the current state to looking at the data profile to see where your shortcomings are. Prioritize the improvement plans. That's going back to the when, where, what that you're evaluating, and identify a couple of areas that you want to focus on rather than everything. Then start actually implementing the solution, get the business integrated in at the data source. Don't try and correct the data entry right out of the bot right away. Oftentimes that requires a lot of resources to change software, to re-educate people. So it may be a knee-jerk reaction to try and correct it, but start the process, but really put it after you've started cleaning up your own data. And then continuously improve, go through this process. I recommend once a year, but your organization, it might vary. And then what we're looking forward to with data quality, there's a lot of different tools that are in discussion that we haven't seen a great solution for yet. And we're hoping that some of the solutions will really refine them over time. And it really gets down to transparency, observability, and scorecard. Really turns into the executives want a simple way to look at the data quality for the organization, see are we in a good state or a bad state, do they need to take action, and then do we want to offer the ability to drill down to find what the individual problems are. And then talking about some of the open source solutions, we built a lot of our solutions in-house for a variety of reasons, but we feel that we're in a state where we want to expand out to start using open source solutions, particularly for building frameworks that address our individual issues that have been identified. Heard great things about Great Expectations, but also hearing it's going to take a lot of effort, a lot of manpower, person power to be able to roll out a solution with Great Expectations. It's not flip a switch. DQ, Soda Core, heard lots of great things. Y data profiling, previously Pandas profiling, great for running many profiles on your data, and then a variety of other solutions. The one warning I would say is a lot of people, myself included, get really excited about these tools, that they start seeing these tools are going to solve these individual problems for us that we know we've experienced, but they might not be the most important process to the organization. So be careful about getting too passionate, getting excited about a personal pet project to implement these solutions when it might not be in the best interest of the organization to devote that manpower. So what we discussed, talked about the complexity of data quality, the number of different issues with the what, when, where, and how, principles or dimensions of data quality, such as the 65 DAMA principles, the business value and impact, diamond levels of diamond levels of data table quality, the historic issues, the level of desired data quality that we want. We don't want to be perfect. We don't want to be awful. We want to find a place in between that is good. And then some basic outlines for building out an implementation plan. Want to open up to general questions, but want to get some feedback on a targeted area of who has worked with an open source solution that they want to share their experiences, either good or bad, with open source data quality solutions. Yes.
I worked on Datafold, but I worked on Datafold, but I heard recently it's just stopped being an open source.
So DataDiff,
Yeah, the data diff of
Yeah.
Datafold.
they still have a number of open source initiatives, but I loved using DataDiff, and that it is no longer being developed in open source since like last year.
Yeah, so if a company puts investment into that area, and then suddenly if it stops being an open source, it sounds like a huge risk.
Yes. Yeah.
So any thoughts on investing time and effort into open source could be?
Sure. It's risky, but the great thing is that open source, you've at least got the source code. So you've downloaded it. You can start modifying it yourself to meet your individual needs. But it does have to be balanced out. I think some of the greater risk is the commercial organizations that you invest lots and lots of money, and the organization is either they go bankrupt and they disappear, or they're partnered. We've had a number of solutions where the company is bought out, and the company that bought them no longer continues to provide the same level of support that we used to have. So it's definitely a risk.
I've used Elementary, which was also pretty.
Yeah.
It just because of the complexity of the pipelines that we had, the number of observability we integrated with Elementary also, and at some point it became so useful. But it was helpful to establish some metrics to begin with. Then again, it requires some manual efforts to keep things running, create the metrics as and when add up to the new existing metrics. Expense ahead. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Really like picking up fine, but just in case.
Okay. Mine's more of a general question. When I start working in data quality, as particularly the metrics, what I find is people drift into measuring inputs rather than measuring outputs. So they'll say, well, this data is great because it passed 1,000 tests. That's not a good measure.
Right.
So what excuse me, what measures have you found to be effective for measuring outputs?
So particularly getting the different departments. So we're feeling pretty good about like the overall numbers, the reports that we provide to the organization as a whole, where we've got thousands of people that are looking at the numbers on a daily basis. We've had lots of years to refine those, and we're feeling good there. The departmental data, that's where we're running into the individual issues. We'll do our data quality, but we don't know the individual. Oh, awesome. Thanks, Jordan. For the individual departments, we oftentimes lack the knowledge of an individual area. So some of our lines of business, we thought there was no one under the age of 35 in lines of business, in particular lines of business. So we started building rules to do things like that, and it was passing the rules, and then there was some legal changes and an acquisition, and suddenly we start getting bad data in. And that really became crucial of having, for each individual department, we have a product manager that's designing the reports and tools for that department. They have business data SMEs identified for their individual areas that we can go to. So it's really, it goes from being a technical solution to really being a people solution, having them identify what are the areas that we should be monitoring for. And we're oftentimes looking at things that we can quantify, that our ages, we were expecting that we would never see someone below the age of 0, but you can actually have a medical bill for someone, for a baby that hasn't yet been born, and you don't even know what their date of birth is. So we saw different oddities with the data, but when we talked with the different departments, they were very quick to identify different issues. So definitely going from the technical mindset of data quality to the business side of what are the business rules that they want us to measure for. And what we typically do is for the 3-diamond tables, we have the business SMEs provide us a minimum of 3 measures that they want us to check for. So sometimes it's as simple as making sure that we always have at least X number of members identified. It's a truncated report if it's missing.
So to try and kind of loop back to how, because that's the question, right? How do you measure your outputs? It sounds like you determine that the data is of good quality because the SMEs say so, and that's your North Star.
Right, and particularly the data, the business data SMEs, they're assigned to look at reports on a regular basis and start asking us questions that we'll meet with them regularly. And it's really doing the sanity check from a non-technical side of things, that they oftentimes, the business data SMEs don't even know how to use Excel, but they know how to look at a report and say these numbers are correct. And they don't need to know the technical side. They know the healthcare and the legal side and the business side far better than we do. And we found that having those contacts, we get the questions answered oftentimes within half an hour, most of the time within 3 hours. And we would oftentimes spend 2 or 3 days looking at the technical problem, trying to solve it, when they can flag, it's like, oh yeah, we changed that, we forgot to tell you about it. And the most common thing is we changed that, we forgot to tell someone about it.
Sorry, last follow-up on that. Have you played around with sending NPS style surveys to your SMEs? Something like once a month we ask you, would you recommend this data, or something like that?
Doing like a net promoter score for
exactly for your data?
We hadn't thought of that, but that could certainly be. So getting direct feedback from the users, whether they would recommend the data, would they give us a 5-star rating?
Yeah, 5 stars for 5 diamonds.
Yeah. That's a good question. All right, we've got time for 2 more questions, and then we'll open it up, and I'll of course would love to answer individual questions.
First comment on the last question. I also find writing unit tests on the output and having your own sample validation, having your validation data mark layer of understanding, is the SQL doing, or in my case, is my PySpark transformation doing what I expect it to do, and having known inputs to outputs to validate that, yeah, we're still passing our unit tests, in addition to working with SMEs, has been incredibly helpful on evaluating kind of post output and not just the inputs. I have worked with Data Core. There's DBT Core. Like the out of the box stuff that you get there is great. There's a fantastic open source called DBT Expectations, which is highly inspired by Great Expectations, that we found incredibly valuable. I'm currently evaluating elementary. It seems promising to enhance that. Pydantic has been fantastic on the Python front, especially validating API responses, so that it's ensured that it's going to meet the spec and the response, and the data element is going to be there. Outside of that, data classes has been is built into Python. And it has facilitated a lot of the same things you get from Pydantic, but Pydantic's a bit heavier. And anyway, there's that. Grid Expectation has a fantastic support team behind them. Their open source tool. It's been years since I've last evaluated them, but I think highly of that team and the original founders there. To the question, you mentioned kind of 3 different data types on essentially it was to near real time. Do you have any, has anyone been working with data quality on streaming data where it's coming in in real time, and are you creating a second database that's partitioning that out, or has anyone been working in that realm?
We have not. We have been looking at the near real time streaming data, and particularly we've been identifying how complex the problems that we're going to be facing, and instead of evaluating the whole data table, it's evaluating small chunks of the data to see, did you have experience with did anyone have near real time?
So I haven't implemented this, but one option you do have is if you're using Kafka, you can, do transformations midstream using, KSQL, K-tables, and things like that. That could be an option, although it's not really out of the box.
And Databricks has Delta Live tables that help with the process, but I'm really impressed with Databricks, but Delta Live tables is a year or 2 old now. So
and Databricks is fantastic. I'm a huge fan of it, but tried to stay on more of the open source side of things, not trying to get vendor locked.
I mean, I've only heard of Monte Carlo doing that, so can't do with open source.
Yeah.
All right. If you've got any individual questions, definitely grab me afterwards. Would love to chat. And
we're here till 8:30. That's when I would like to go ahead and wrap up. Feel free to grab more pizza, take one home with you, and we'll see you next month. Let's go ahead and give John another.